Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And now let's talk a little about vloggers or people who are vlogging their travels and then, they put it up on TikTok and on, YouTube shorts and but especially on TikTok where they say, oh, this is how a foreigner is treated in so and so country, and this is how a foreigner is treated in so and so country. And as remember, I referenced China in my previous podcast, saying that, well, if you look at the TikToks showing how foreigners are treated, especially there was this viral TikTok about a black girl showing how a black foreign girl is treated in China, where there were so many people whipping out their cameras and basically taking pictures of her or recording her without her permission and all. And well, as a few others pointed out, that they don't just do it with blacks. It's basically any foreigner. If they recognize somebody as a foreigner, then they tend to do that. And of course, there were many Chinese who actually were friendly, and they came and they asked her if they could take a selfie with her and all. Okay, now let me tell you, it's common sense. Okay, I mean, to me at least, it seems common sense. I don't know, I might be wrong here. Maybe it's not the case, but most probably it is. Okay, listen, you're traveling abroad, you're whipping out your own camera, right? You have a selfie stick, you have your mobile, or you have a camera, and you're so obviously vlogging. Okay, you're vlogging your travels. And you do realize that when you're vlogging, many people, the same people that now are suddenly whipping out their cameras or their mobile phones to record you, are doing it basically because they can see you vlogging. So, two things. If you think you can vlog and have all those unknown people, those strangers, come onto your vlog without asking for their permission, because you think, oh, they're part of the background, I can't go around asking every single one of them for permission. I am, worst to worst, if I get complaints, I can blur their faces out. But the point is, you still didn't ask for their permission. And the point is that is still wrong, vlogging or no vlogging, right? But we all tend to expect everybody to understand that they're just part of the whole background, and we're not focusing on anybody, and we're vloggers and this and that. Well, then you should also accept their reaction, where they look at you holding a camera vlogging, and so their first instinct would be to whip out their mobile phones and vlog you. You understand? Because this is basically what is happening, as far as I can see. I mean, to me, this is what it seems to be, and it seems pretty obvious, is that they are basically saying, oh, here's the person who's vlogging. She's probably, I mean, I don't know her, but she may be a famous vlogger. Let's just take pictures with her, and later on we'll find out, or let's just whip out our own mobile phones and take a video of her, and we'll when we'll get the time, we'll go home and we'll try to search and find out who she is or who he is. So I think you're not kind of allowed to be offended or to say, oh, this is how I'm being treated because I'm a foreigner. No, you're not being treated like this because you're a foreigner there. You're being treated like this because you have your camera out and you are recording everybody else. I mean, that's the way I see it. Now, if the scenario obviously would be different, if you suddenly see somebody, which I think in one or two occasions that was the case, where they were in the subway and then they saw somebody pretending very slyly, pretending as if they're just doing something on their phone, but they were actually secretly, without their permission, recording the foreigner. And so the foreigner decided to bring out her own phone and record them recording her. Yeah, no, that is rude. The point is, in any case, it is rude for anybody to just whip out their cameras and record anybody without their permission. It's also illegal, by the way, because privacy laws and all. You cannot just film anybody and everybody. And there was a time when vloggers were pretty conscious about it. So you would notice that the very conscious vloggers used to blur the faces, all the faces in the background, in consideration of privacy laws, and in consideration of the fact that they know that they didn't ask permission, and that they know that many people, if they suddenly find themselves there, they might not be happy about it. right? Yeah, I know that etiquette would demand, which again, as I said, the same vlogger, she did find many Chinese ladies and girls who actually came up to her very friendly, very politely, asking her, telling her that she was so pretty, and asking her if they could take a photo with her, and that it was and that they loved the way she looked, and that and they were, some of the girls were literally like complimenting her and praising her, and also that was pretty nice and natural. And I guess that is what you kind of, sort of, a communication is going on between the two. There's a conversation between the group and her, and and they're having a nice conversation, which leads to them asking permission, if or for having a selfie taken with her, and probably even finding out that she may be a vlogger or a model or somebody or whatever. So there is that. Okay, I don't know if she was a vlogger or not, I don't know, but the thing is, nowadays almost everybody's on social media, almost everybody's some sort of an amateur vlogger or a mature or a professional vlogger, especially if you're on TikTok. So almost everybody's on TikTok except me, and everybody's a TikToker. So again, if you are expected to be given certain leeways because you're a TikToker and you think almost everybody else is a TikToker, so now everybody has this implicit understanding that they can sort of ignore these privacy laws, then I think you should also be a little more understanding and not expect that, it's not, as I said, it's not just in China. If you go anywhere and you stick your camera out, you will have two kinds of reactions. Either they will, also bring out their own phones and start recording you, or they might actually confront you and say, excuse me, what are you doing? And I mean, and that's the thing, the Western people are actually very, very rude in this point. As I mean, you have all these Western vloggers who go all over the world and they're vlogging, and they don't even bother to ask permission, as I said, from others, be it China, be it Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and all, and be it Africa or be it the Middle East or anybody. And as I said, it is just the generosity and the kindness of the public that they understand, and they sort of, it's sort of an implicit understanding that, okay, this person is just vlogging their travels. It doesn't matter if we've somehow entered into their camera and all. Although in the Middle East, they are well aware to be very careful not to have females in the background, so they avoid. So if as a vlogger or as a traveler who vlogs, if you have that much sense to know that in the Middle East you're careful because their laws are so strict, and their women definitely do not at all like the fact that you would have a camera in front of them, even if it's just in the background. So if you're if you're considerate of that, but you expect everybody else all over the world to be considerate of the fact that you are vlogging, and that they should, have this tacit understanding that they will ultimately end up in your vlog as background, and that they should, ignore the privacy factors here. But then when you go to Canada or other countries, Western countries like Europe and America, you will have these rude people who, despite the fact that they're actually not even in your vlog, and that's the funny part here, okay, and that is what is so ironic and so, what can I say? I mean, that just shows their mentality. They're not even on your vlog. You can't even see them, but you can suddenly hear somebody, very rudely telling off the vlogger, especially if the vlogger is an Asian, a Pakistani or an Indian, or just of any other, and yet they're telling them off rudely that not everybody wants to be in your vlog. You need to ask permission first. Well, first of all, you're not even in the vlog. Nobody can see you, but we can definitely hear you. Your rude ass voice, and the fact that you're embarrassing a vlogger who actually did not even vlog you, and that vlogger is literally vlogging the cafe or the restaurant, or the coffee that they're having or whatever, and you suddenly have this misconception, you're under the delusion that you've entered their vlog. Can you see yourself in their vlog? Did they point their camera at you? So yeah, you find you, and then so for Western vloggers to complain about how, in other countries people react this way. I think this is a much better reaction, where they at least ask you. That is their way of sort of telling you that, okay, you are vlogging around and our faces are coming in your camera and everything. Maybe you're a vlogger, maybe you're somebody famous, maybe, can we have a picture with you? That is basically literally what they're thinking, and I happen to know that because I have actually heard many people, say that and do that, where they're, taking pictures with foreigners and all, and then later on they're like, well, I don't know who they are, but, if they're somebody famous, at least I can brag about it later on, that, oh yeah, I met them and I took a picture with them, literally, for bragging rights. Okay. So I think it's better, it's more positive to, to have that kind of a reaction, as opposed to the way the people in the West react to vloggers, international vloggers and influencers who they don't even know. So over here, we don't know you, but we're still sort of showing you, this is a sort of a welcoming hand that we're showing you, when we're saying, oh, okay, so you're some, so. And in fact, actually in Pakistan, it's even more different, because in Pakistan, people actually come up to you, they ask you if you're a vlogger, and then they ask you for your ID, and then they follow you, and then they, say, okay, can we have a photo with you? Can we have a selfie with you? They literally, in Pakistan, you kind of see that whole proper process, which you kind of don't see in other countries. It's true. I mean, in India, they literally stalk you without, or they creep up to you, or they just, whip out their phones and take photos with you without your permission. Yeah, that is not done in Pakistan, at least. It's done in other countries, maybe even in some parts of China, as I said, or maybe some parts of other countries. Yeah, it can be done in any country. Okay, it's many countries that do that. But as I said, it depends also in which part of that country you're in. Is it a part that is not very exposed to foreigners? You need to see that. If it's a part that is not it's not a metropolitan part of the city, or it's not a metropolitan city in itself, these are all the things you have to. But I mean, the truth is, at the end of the day, most people, they just take photos for bragging rights. Okay, and if you don't like it, then just tell them. It's not like, they're gonna say anything. I mean, it's just like how it's their privacy when you whip out your cameras, so it's your privacy. But as I'm just trying to say that TikTokers and influencers and vloggers, they tend to forget that they are literally, without any permission, they are filming, recording, and putting into their vlogs a whole lot of people who may or may not even want to be there, without their permission, and they expect everybody to just understand it, but they themselves complain when people treat them this way. So I think it's kind of wrong. It's a two-way thing. As I said, I think it's better to have somebody come up to you and say, oh, hi, you look so lovely and this and that, and may I have a selfie with you, rather than have that attitude that the white person gives you, where they're not even in your vlog. But they're under this delusion that they're Queen Elizabeth, and then they're, yapping on the side, not everybody wants to be in your vlog. Who's taking you in my goddamn vlog? That's what that influencer should have asked. Seriously. And that influencer was actually a Canadian, a Canadian Asian, as in a Canadian Pakistani, who had left Canada and moved to America. So she'd basically come back to her family in Canada, and she was vlogging her favorite cafe, where she was so happy to go back to after such a long time. But I mean, this is the kind of things that you need to think about, when you look at such things. So yeah, I think there are a lot of things, and also I've noticed that there are so many things which you say, don't do this in Japan, don't do this in China, don't do this in Korea, don't do this in India, or don't do this in. So you do know that there are certain aspects in etiquette, because it's like how you expect foreigners to behave in your own countries, so you obviously have to respect the culture of the other countries. You know, as I said, you can't go around half nude wearing a bikini in certain countries. And similarly, you can't expect, that others should come and disregard your own culture in your own country, right? As we say, do in Rome as Romans do, right? So show some respect to the other culture. And this is what anybody who has any common sense and decency would know when it comes to traveling. So there is this aspect that I felt was very important that we needed to get out of the way, and we need to talk because, and also, let me tell you also one thing. I think that the reason why we now have so much expectations is again because of the global village thing, where we think that, okay, information technology is out there, it's common now, everybody has it. The social media is there, the internet is there, everybody can see anything, everybody has access to every single information possible. So why is it that people are still so ignorant? Well, again, that is because even though everything is out there, people do what we refer to as biased research, which means they do a confirmation bias. In other words, they search things that would only confirm their bias, and they would go through things on the social media that interests them, and they want to see what they want to see, you understand? So you can, just because you have access to the media or to the internet, it doesn't mean that you are actually going to go and search for information that you have no interest on. So you cannot, I mean, I understand we all have these expectations. It's true. We're like, okay, with the world the way it is now, why is it that people are still so ignorant? But again, that is then this is the same thing that the world would ask of the Europeans and the Americans, that with all this information out there, why are you still with the Zionists? Why are you still defending occupation of Palestine? Why are you still making excuses for the Jews who are killing and murdering children every single day in Palestine? Why are you sitting blind to the plight of the Kashmiris in occupied Kashmir in India? Why are you silent? Why have you been silent all this time? And why are you making excuses? So yeah, you have access to the internet, you have access to the social media, you can see what's going on. You can see that metaverse is actively blocking and striking down and removing content that you're posting on your social media, to stop you from talking about what is going on in Kashmir and what is going on in Palestine and what is going on in Pakistan, for example. Yeah, even Pakistanis who are trying to talk about how Imran Khan is in danger and how the American establishment has literally effed our country up, and how right now our army and the illegal government are working, they have, like, for example, just now they very illegally managed to pass the mineral bill, which is giving America basically access, as if we don't have enough international companies here that are literally stealing our rubies and our gemstones and our gold and our, so now America is after our rare earth minerals that are in Balochistan. Balochistan has been eaten. It has been eaten away, seriously. 42% of the resources are in Balochistan, and Balochistan has been eaten hollow by the Americans, by the army that has been smuggling gemstones and minerals and semi-precious stones and crystals out of the country from Balochistan. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the international companies and agencies, they are there in Kashmir in Pakistan, where they are literally illegally, I mean, to us it is illegal because we, the people, didn't give them the right. Through corruption, through kickbacks, through backdoor dealings, they have secured their dealings with the government, with the army, and they are drilling, mining, taking away all the rubies, all the precious stones that Kashmir is producing. And they are literally snatching the stones away from the locals who have the right to take those stones from their land. They literally are stopping this. This a friend of mine who lives in Azad Kashmir, like he told me that they literally stop the people on the roads and they do a search, and they take away any gems that they see in their hands. Imagine, it's their gems, they own them, it's from their land. But no, it's De Beers, it's De Beers all over again. Like how Europe has been stealing diamonds and precious stones and gold from Africa, like how they've been abusing and exploiting their children, leading them to death. France and the UK and Switzerland, and they're all responsible here. Similarly, America, so America is just digging its claws into Pakistan. It's been digging its claws as if China wasn't enough. America and China are basically just fighting each other to see who can get what from Pakistan, who can steal as much as they can from Pakistan. you know so here we are. And you see that the social media, especially metaverse and YouTube, they've literally sold their souls to these governments. Just like how AT&T had done it before, when they gave illegal access to the American government to wiretap the people. Telenor did it here in Pakistan, and then as soon as there was a trial against them and the Supreme Court summoned them, they declared themselves bankrupt and they ran out of the country. you know this is what international companies of your so-called first world countries are doing in countries like ours. They are literally stripping us bare. They're stealing from us. They're not even paying the right price. They're working with corrupt people on corrupt deals, back-end deals, backdoor deals, and then they take away all the profits and they leave. And you think that, oh, because they're American and European companies, they follow the law and they're all pristine. They are the worst. Your companies, your European and American companies, are the worst companies ever. They are the worst of the worst when they come to our countries. All the amount of profits that they earn through all the illegal activities that they can commit and get away with in our countries. Your people get away with murder in our countries, but you kidnap and detain our innocent citizens without any transparency, without any actual court trial, without any investigation, and you declare them terrorists, and then you jail them, regardless of their gender, regardless of their age, regardless of their background. So yeah, this is the difference here. So yeah, why are you doing all of that? You have access to all this information. You have access to the whole social media, to the internet archives and everything. Everything's unfiltered. Why are you so dumb? Why are you so uneducated? Why are you so stupid? Seriously. Yeah. So yeah, we have high expectations just because of the social media and the internet. But the truth is, we need to understand that this isn't necessarily a global village. It's a global village in name only. But again, you will only seek the information that interests you. You will seek the information that confirms your bias. You will not seek the right kind of information that will blow your mind. Not everybody wants to unsee or to unhear or to unlearn. You understand? Not everybody wants to do that. Majority of people just want to, sit like lame sitting ducks and like ostriches just dig their heads into the soil and pretend nothing's happening around them. That is what majority human beings are. They don't want to have anything to do with anything. They don't want to be a part of anything. They don't want to get involved in anything, but they want everything. This is how people are. And this is why we've all, as a civilization, reached to the point of our own demise. We've reached to the point of our own disintegration. And we've reached to a large degree to the point of such a very, very, very large degree of regression. We are basically the end of our own civilization in the way. The next civilization that's going to come, you just see what they think of us. Like how we sit and talk about previous civilizations before us that have now long gone. We're going to be the one that's going to be long gone. And the next generation, the next civilization actually, is going to mark us up in history as the worst civilization ever to have come. The civilization that sat and aided and abetted in multiple genocides. Multiple, from Bosnia to Germany to Palestine to Kashmir, to Myanmar, multiple genocides. We are that civilization that has waged wars just so that we can control natural resources. We are that civilization that has seen greed to such an extent that we want to actually kill off as much of the world's population as we can, so that those demented self-claimed gods can actually control the whole world. Seriously, I mean, how psychotic do you have to be to actually, you know to literally have that kind of a plan? I don't know. But there you are. I mean, you have these kind of educational YouTube channels like the Global Earth, World Friends, you have Awesome World, which is not exactly educational, but at the same time it is, because it shows you all those really, really tiny, tiny aspects of humanity itself, of people, that you wouldn't get in books. I mean, it's literally understanding the human mind and the human acts, and the way people behave and how. So yeah, you do learn a lot when you go through. But then people, again, as I said, do not want to see what they want to see. People at the end just want to see, what they take out even from these channels is nothing educational the way I see it. I don't see them actually. There are a lot who actually do see the channels for the same reasons that one would expect them to, which is to educate themselves or to see how much the other people are learning about each other, about other countries, about other cultures, right? But at the same time, again, as I said, there are those. You will see narcissists everywhere. You will see those with God complex everywhere. You will see those know-it-alls everywhere who just sit down and start typing on their keyboards that oh, you people are so stupid, oh, you people are so, oh, you got that wrong, oh, you got that, and actually they're the ones getting stuff wrong because they don't even understand. Oh, that's another thing I don't get. It's so obvious what they're trying to say through their content. Why is it that you people don't get it? I don't get it. I seriously don't get it. It's like that thing that I talked about, in one of my podcasts. I think I did talk about it, where I was saying that they were comparing Persian and Arabic and Urdu and Turkish and all. And there was this self-claimed professor. I mean, seriously, if you're a professor, you should be ashamed of yourself, because I think you bought your certificate. I think you bought your doctorate. I think you need to go to school again, because he was so busy bitching about why they were comparing Urdu with Persian and with Turkish and with Arabic, and that they should compare Turkish with Turkic and this and that. And then he started bitching about how Urdu was an an Indo-Aryan language, and I was correcting him that that is a larger umbrella, and whatever, fuck it. Point is that he was so busy being so full of himself that he didn't even realize that he was being so stupid and ignorant, that he didn't even understand the whole theme. Again, why would you compare two languages that actually they belong to the same family? The point of comparing languages is that languages that are seemingly completely different from each other actually share roots. Remember, I mean, as a language teacher, that is how I manage to teach language to others, and how I make it so easy for them to learn is because I pick all those roots. I'm like, look, it seems as if we have nothing in common with Japanese, but look, this word and this word, look, it's common. For example, it's so random, but as I pointed out in one of my language posts, in one of my on the groups, is that in Japanese, as as a sort of call it an endearment, they tend to say chan, right, after the name of the person with whom they're, if that person is younger than them, or if they have an informal sort of relationship. And you know what? In Punjabi too, we say chan, and But in Punjabi, Chand actually literally refers to Chand, which is the moon. And when you're calling somebody a moon as an endearment, and you will find a very similar endearment in Thai, which is not at all surprising because Thailand is actually very close to the subcontinent in various ways. So, and similarly, in Korean language, you will hear them use G at the end of their sentences, and they use it very similar to the way we use it, except that the intonation is different. So we also tend to use G at the end of our sentences, but it has a completely different intonation or reference, for example, because G at the end means yes, right? So it's like saying right at the end of a sentence, but at the same time, sometimes we just add G at the end of the sentence as a sort of a completion to the sentence. So in Korean you will see them sometimes say G or sometimes say Joe, right? But there you are, but in our language we use G, but we use it in a different kind of way. But again, it does usually end up as a completion of the sentence, as the tail end of a sentence as well. Like, for example, we will say ye karna to padega na ji, you know kyun ji. So na and ji are the two words that we also use at the end of our sentences. As we say, we karna to padega na. So that is just like, it's very similar. So that's how it's easy for us, despite the differences and despite the different contexts in which we use these words, but there is some similarity that helps us understand exactly what they're saying and how the placement of the words in the sentence goes. There is always a connection. Remember, each language, one way or the other, is connected to the other language. All languages are one way or the other connected to a parent language, which in turn is connected to another language. And this is how you find that very, very completely different languages, when you start comparing them to each other, you find a lot of similarities. Common sense. If you were really an authentic, bona fide language teacher or professor, you would know that. But no, he went on and on bitching about the whole thing. And everybody was so fed up with him, because the YouTube channel actually, was so appreciative of the fact that I actually understood what it was that they were aiming for, And there were a few others but everybody, majority of them were just too busy just yapping and trying to basically up the other. Everybody was trying to up the other. Oh, I know better than you. It was like a competition of who knew what. And none of them were anywhere near what the whole actual context or theme of that, that content was. Like, seriously? So, this is what I'm trying to say, is that when you have this thought in your mind, this too is a bias, actually. This too is a bias that we all have, where we think that, because I am the same in a way sometimes, is that I also think, I'm like, you have all this access to the internet, you have all this access to information for free, and you still don't know this. Yeah, I too feel that. Most of us feel that about each other, I guess. And yeah, so I guess that's why we say that, okay, in today's world, even if you stop and stare at a foreigner, that is so rude. Or in today's world, even but that's what we because we spend so much time on the social media, we tend to forget that in real life there are so many people who probably do not even see all that content. As I said, we see the content we want to see. Those of us who are already exposed to traveling or who are exposed to other cultures, we in our algorithm, all that might come, but it wouldn't be in everybody's algorithm, right? So there are people who probably know nothing whatsoever about anything foreign, anything, not in this sense, at least not in the sense that you expect them to. They would know about foreign countries and all, probably more than you do. But the fact that if they suddenly have a first-hand experience for the first time in their lives of seeing a foreigner right live in front of them, then even if not deliberately, just unconsciously, they might react by just staring at you. You know, I know that despite, okay, I'll just tell you, I myself feel very embarrassed at myself when I think back and look at it, because despite the fact that I have lived abroad, I was born abroad, I lived amongst, a whole caboodle of nations. I mean, a lot of expats from different countries from all over the world, and I interacted with them, obviously, and I thought nothing of it, until then when we shifted to Pakistan. And despite the fact that, everybody in Pakistan would say that I'm completely different, and I am different from them, that I do not share their mentality, sorry, and I do not share their way of thinking or whatever. And I've had more exposure, and then I've traveled again and again, even after coming back to Pakistan, all that jazz. And yet, you know what, sometimes unconsciously, even I find myself staring at somebody, not even necessarily a foreigner. Sometimes I just find myself staring at somebody who I know, but I can't for the life of me remember that person, and that person probably thinks I'm so rude not to have greeted that person. But I am literally blank in my mind, so blank that I'm frozen. And even though I want to move my eyes away, or I want to step away and anything, I'm just staring like an idiot. I've done that. Okay. Similarly, I have done this where I've done that 2 to 3 times, by the way. Yeah. And similarly, it's happened when somebody is constantly telling me that, oh, this person is this person, and it's just not registering. It's just not registering. And I'm saying, oh, where is that person? And my mom's like, she's standing right in front of you, and I'm telling you that she is here. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but where is she? It happens, okay? Especially in today's world where we're all living such stressful lives, it happens, okay? And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I have never judged people for not greeting me, or for not coming to me, or for acting weird in front of me, or awkwardly, or staring at me blankly. I have never, ever, because again, you see, I have been there. But the problem with people is, even though they have been there, but they're so quick to judge others. They're so quick to say, no, 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 in my case it was different, but they are definitely doing that. Seriously, what have you learned from being in that situation? You've learned jack shit, is what I can say. You've learned jack shit, you know? And they keep on and on insisting, oh no, 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 oh no, I'm not, oh yeah, I was like, yeah, just go to hell, please. Just leave me the frack alone, and go be an ignorant, idiotic moron that you will always remain. If this is all you can do with your life, even though you must have been in the same situation yourself. So yeah, I do not have the time for such people who always make it a point to say that no, they were different and everybody else should be judged in the stereotypical way. If they should be judged in the stereotypical way, so should you. Give people the benefit of the doubt, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate others, as to, not to be uncouth, not to be rude and everything. But you know what? As I said, people are people. Just because the internet is now, common and it's in every household, doesn't guarantee that people should be exposed to everything. People will just be exposed to whatever they want to be exposed to. People want to see what they want to see. Okay? We need to kind of remove that from our minds. I know it's difficult. It's difficult for us. I know I too have problems with that, as I said, especially when I'm dealing with the Western world and I see how stupid and ignorant they are when they keep on and on talking about the poor Israelis and the poor Israelis. And I'm like, seriously, what is wrong with you? Yeah. So there you are. The internet is there. It's like, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that a time will come when information will be there will be so much information, and it will be available and accessible to every single person, but nobody will have the awareness. And we are in that time. Seriously, we are literally living in those times when information is there, it's out there, it's accessible, everybody has it, but there is no awareness. There is no real education. There's no real awareness. We're still misinformed. We're still ill informed, you know? So, yeah, I think the trick is to try to, you know, like sometimes I really think that, I keep on and on saying something is so wrong with my eyes. I swear, I do wish my eyes wouldn't have a mind of their own and suddenly just stare into empty, because literally, I'm not even staring at anybody. I'm actually literally lost in my own mind. And if somebody happens to come in front of my vision, or in front of my, I'm not even looking at them seriously. And I'm sure if anybody had the sense, they would see and notice that I am literally probably lost in a daze and I'm not even looking at them. But it happens, and I've seen so many people do that as well. I've seen so many people stare so intensely at me, and I stare back at them confused, because I'm like, what, and they're not even blinking. And you know what, it takes me a while to realize, oh my god, they're probably lost somewhere. Although, to be honest, most of the time I don't realize it. So I can understand that I'm looking at them and I'm like, why are they just staring at me? And then at the end I'm like, oh yeah, okay, just forget it. And then like this out of the blue suddenly comes to my mind, oh my god, that person was probably just lost, just like how I get lost. You know, it happens. We need to understand that. We need to remind ourselves again and again that these things happen. We need to give people the benefit of the doubt, and we also need to act a little more prudently ourselves. I mean, you're traveling and then you're whipping out your camera and you're taking everything in, but you don't want other people to whip out their cameras and take a photo of you. I think that is sort of, to me, that is hypocritical. Okay, seriously. When I travel, I am so uncomfortable taking out my mobile or taking out my camera. So uncomfortable. I feel so shy, so uncomfortable, so awkward, because I always feel as if, I just don't feel myself. I don't feel natural. And when I do finally get the courage to, vlog, I really just vlog scenes and sceneries and panoramic scenes and places and trees and nature. I don't vlog people at all. I try never to vlog people at all. Even though my dad encourages me a lot, and he's like, he even tries to participate and all. My mother also doesn't mind and all, but I just feel so uncomfortable, because I am basically, I don't know, despite the fact that I am a writer and I am a producer and I work well with the whole crew and cameras and this and that, but I am camera shy and I hate cameras. And I hate whipping out my camera and suddenly going boom, 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 boom. I just hate it. It's so awkward. It's so uncomfortable. Seriously. It's just, no. No. It's not me. So there you are. Even when I take pictures, I take pictures of sceneries, I take pictures of places, of locations, of mountains, of rivers, of trees, of nature. I don't really take pictures of people unless they want me to, but now that's not my interest. So yeah, I mean, I think as I said, because our generation, we were not born with the internet. The internet came when we were still in our early teens or teens. No, that's when we were barely 12 years old. I think that's when the computers came, and then that's when we know Windows 98 and all that stuff started. Windows 95 was it? Sorry, I don't even remember now. Forget it. But anyway, yeah, it was in the 90s that computers practically came. It was in the 70s actually when they came out in the market, because my dad bought the first batch of computers that came. That time it was basically a whole, just a small keyboard, and within the keyboard was everything, and you could just attach it to any monitor, any TV, and turn it into a computer. But then, proper computers like that, like with Windows and everything, they came in the 90s, right? And then, yeah, 95. I think it was Windows 95, wasn't it? And then, in the in the 90s, yeah, it was still in the 90s when the internet came. Yeah, when you had the dial-up connection. Yeah. So, yep. Yep. So, I mean, we were teenagers basically, right? So, we have a huge sense of privacy in the sense that, despite the fact, it's not that, I mean, before that, obviously, we were all photographers in our own right. Our parents did photography, we did photography. Taking photographs has been a tradition for decades, right? So keeping things on the record, recording things when you're traveling, that's always been there. Everybody was taking pictures and everything. So vlogging is just the next step. And I mean, which is why, as I said, people seem to think that everybody should implicitly understand. But you see, the difference here is that when you take pictures, you take it only of yourselves and everybody else gets out of the frame. But when you're vlogging, then regardless of, again, whether the people want to or not, they're in the frame. You see, they're in your frame. It's unavoidable in a way, but that is also what can cause situations, is what I'm saying. So, as I said, one needs to give the benefit of the doubt to other people too. Except that, as I said, yeah, I understand that the experiences people have had in India were too extreme to even justify. I understand that. But if you remove those extreme experiences, but if you talk only and only about people staring or this and that, as I said, you need to, it's not just India, as I said, in different countries you will encounter that. And you will encounter it in those areas of those countries where seeing a foreigner is not normal. It's not an everyday occurrence that they would ignore it. You understand? For example, in Pakistan, if you go up to the northern areas, nobody's even going to look at you twice. Nobody. They can't be bothered. First of all, as I said, they're a completely different species. They're even more elevated mentally than the West. The West is a village compared to the northern areas of Pakistan, where the mental level and the way of thinking and the mentality is. These people are amazing, mashallah, the people up north. Their education level is of another level. They're all, I mean, you can find 100% education up north. People are humble, people are simple, but they are truly educated, as we say, educated in mind and on paper. And they just have their own way of life, their own way of thinking. And they're very honest, very kind, very generous people. They're amazing people, mashallah. So yeah, when foreigners have the best times of their lives up north in Pakistan, right from the start. And as I said, and up in the northern areas, it doesn't matter. They don't care who's coming, who's going, as in they don't stop and stare and this and that. But when you come down towards the villages, not the northern areas, when you come down towards the plains, when you come down towards Sindh, Punjab, you know the villages, and not just the villages, the remote villages, they stop and stare at anything and everything. They stop and stare even at city people, as I've said before. You will have that, it has nothing to do with you being a foreigner or anything else. It's just that you're something that it is just literally the same way as you will find yourself being treated in the villages of Europe, by the way. So don't try to think that they're any different. Okay? Yeah. So that's another thing. Once again, in reply to those people who think, oh, might as well just, even in the first world, which you call the first world, the developed countries, my dear, go to the villages. Go to the villages of America, go to the villages of Europe. And if they don't drop everything and stare at you because you're a stranger and you're an outsider, change my name. You just change my name. And they don't even stare at you in a good way, by the way. Over here in Asia, in these villages, in these remote areas, they will stare at you plain out of curiosity because you're just something new, something they've never seen before. And they're just, just wide-eyed staring at you, and they can't help it. You understand? But in the West, again, as I said, in the West, it seems to be this common trait of rudeness That seems to be there, yeah. Because in the West, when you go to these remote pockets, when you go to these villages, when you go to these areas that are not used to outsiders, and believe me, villages are all the same all over the world. This is something I've been trying to explain to other people as well, because I know I've lived abroad as well. Villages all over the world are the same. The people in small towns and in villages are the same all over the world. Look at a small town in America. Okay, everybody knows everybody, right? Any outsider that comes, everybody stares at that outsider. Tell me they don't. You just try and tell me they don't. I challenge you. They stare and they stare and they stare. It is a thing. It's, how do we say, it's just part of the most base, it's the most base part of human nature, and the most base parts of humanity, and the most base parts of civilization, I guess, is the way I can explain it. It's a global thing. Every single small town, every single village all over the world, people will always drop everything and stare and stare and stare at something or somebody new that comes. Why? Because they all know each other. They have their set ways, they have their set routines, they have their set lives. They don't have outsiders, they don't have foreigners, they don't have new things coming in. And so whenever someone or something new just comes in, they stare. But again, as I said, the difference is that in Europe and in America, they stare in a negative way, as in a rude way, as in it's unwelcome, you know? Whereas in Asia, it's not an unwelcoming stare. It's a curious stare. It's an interested stare. It's a something new stare, you know? That's the difference. In the West, it's negative. In the West, it is very negative, very unwelcoming, and very uncomfortable. It is equally uncomfortable here in Asia, but it's definitely not unwelcoming. It's more curious and interested than unwelcoming, okay? But in the West, it's definitely unwelcoming. Even if you're an American, if you're an American who has never been to that small town or that village, and you go there, they will treat you the same way, the exact same way. So again, why complain, or why make up these things that, oh, when you're a foreigner in so and so country, and when you're actually going through places in those countries that do not see foreigners every day. If you stick to the metropolitan sites and the tourist sites, nobody's going to stare at you. You know, even in Japan and Korea, if you go to Seoul, or if you go to Tokyo, if you go to Osaka, if you go to all those places which are so used to foreigners, nobody's going to look at you. If you go to Karachi, if you go to Islamabad, if you come to Lahore, nobody's going to look at you, right? In Pakistan, you know. But if you go, even in Japan and Korea, if you go further in to their villages and their small towns and the places where they don't get outsiders, then I challenge you to tell me they're not going to stare at you. They will stare at you. They will look at you up and down, and they will treat you the way you're claiming that. Yeah, it's go to America and they will do the same. Go to Europe and they'll do the same. Go to Russia and they'll do the same, you know? Go anywhere. Go even to Canada and the remote pockets, they'll do the same. Australia, New Zealand, they'll do the same. It's just how it is, you know. It is how it is. This is your most basic thing that you will find that is common all over the world, in all the villages and all the small towns, all the remote areas, all over the world, no exception. Yeah. So, you know, I just thought that I should get that out there as well. Because since we're talking about these topics, it's always better to try to talk about all the different aspects of them, you know. So, as I said, I mean, I am somebody who has faced similar things even in Europe, you know. Because the way I travel, I like to travel not as a tourist. I actually like to travel as a person who would live amongst people there and, live like a native for as long as I can, so that I can see all their, all the good and the bad there, all the systematic problems and all the issues and whatever it is. And that is how you get a better idea of how every country really works. So, yeah, I mean, you're telling me that if you go to Europe or America, you're not going to have some weird ass person come up and try to, you know, uh, make a pass at you, try to hit on you. Seriously? Yeah, don't tell me that. As I said, that is a man thing that you will find all over the world, and men need to be educated on this. Really, all men need to be educated on basic manners. That they need to learn to use their brains and not their third leg. They have brains. Please use it. That's what we need to educate all men all over the world, because, I mean, if I can tell you that when I was in France, there have been people who have tried to make a pass at me. Not one of them was a Pakistani, by the way. There were Indians, there were Spanish, there were Europeans. Not one of them was Pakistani. Okay? Even in the UK, yes, even in the UK, you're telling me that, that is impossible. And despite the fact that I was not even living as a foreigner, as you know, in France, even I was actually living there, I was studying there. And in England, I was a student there and I also taught there. So I lived in England for a few years. And you're telling me that, I'm sorry, this is a global thing. People, coming up to you, people flirting with you, people not taking no for an answer, people, creeping up to you. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a global man thing. It's everywhere. You'll get it everywhere. You'll get it in England, you'll get it in France, you'll get it in America, you'll get it in Italy. Oh yeah, you'll get it in Italy. You'll get it in anywhere, okay? So yeah, don't blame the I mean, it's, yeah. You will even get it in Korea, and you will get it in Japan. I mean, people have faced it all over. We all get it. It doesn't matter, regardless of the country. I guess it's just that we seem to have very high expectations. Like, we will have high expectations from the West, because the West is always acting as if, oh, we're the best of the best, we're the first world, we're so dignified, we're so civilized. Yeah, no, you will have all of that shit there too. So, and then you have high expectations maybe from Korea or Japan, thinking that, these are, yeah, but no, as I said, listen, you yourselves having these expectations shows your ignorance too, or our ignorance. I mean, if I also harbor such expectations from other countries just based on me watching a few of their dramas and that is actually my ignorance. Or looking about all the great cool things about these countries, that these countries are futuristic and all, and this and that. And so you formulate this assumption, you formulate this perception about this country. Well, that is what PR is all about. It is creating an image, telling you of all the good things there, so that you know that this country has this to offer, right? But that doesn't mean that this is all that this country has to offer. So I think that is also a sort of it's our fault, and it's our ignorance if we develop high expectations just from a few touristic PRs and images and social media thing, that 3 great things about Japan and 5 great things about Korea and 10 great things about India and 15 great things about Spain. It really it doesn't matter, because at the end it boils down to your own experience, and that has to be personal, and it's all subjective. Our experiences are individual, they're subjective. As I said, I had the worst experience in France, the worst experience in France. And I've been going to the UK since I was a kid. I spent half my childhood in the UK, and I can tell you that it was not at all. I wasn't impressed by UK, and I never expected to be impressed by the UK, because I knew that the UK is of the present is not going to be the UK of my childhood. I think it's pretty obvious, and I think it's very stupid if I would still expect You know, this is what we call living in the past, by the way, which the problem that I have with people who always say, oh, don't live in the past, but actually they're living in the past. This is called living in the past. When you think about, oh, the Pakistan of my childhood and the India of my childhood and the UK of my childhood, that it's of your childhood. It's gone. It's the past. Things change every single year, every single month. Things change. Okay, the UK of your childhood can never be the UK today. I'm sorry. The Saudia of your childhood is not the Saudia today. You know, the quality of things of your childhood are not the quality of things today. I mean, that is established. It's an established fact. Environments change, people change, mentalities, you know, certain parts of mentalities fester on, certain parts of mentalities die out. You know, it's this is how, as you know, I mean, this is an ongoing cycle, you know. The more things change, the more they're the same. If you understand this sentence, then you understand everything. There is change, and at the same time, there's no change. There is one single constant, but there's a constant change. That is how we are. That's how life is. That's how everything is. So, yeah, why again? I think the fault lies with us when we have expectations from, for example, America or from Europe or from Africa or from Asia based on narrations or narratives that have been pushed across, images that have been pushed across, PRs that have been pushed across, you know, or news that have been pushed across. So, based on all of that, we form certain perceptions. But the whole point of going and seeing for yourself is to know if whatever perception you formed is correct or not. That's the whole point, you see. And that is how a country becomes a pleasant surprise or a nasty surprise for you, you know. So there is that. And toxic mentality is everywhere. I mean, an American would know better about whatever it is in America that is so toxic. A European would know whatever it is in Europe that is so toxic. A Pakistani would know whatever it is in Pakistan that's toxic. An Indian would know what is toxic in India. You know, a Russian would know what is toxic in Russia. A Korean would know what is toxic in Korea. A Japanese would know what's toxic in Japan. And you know, the thing about, as we say, the grass is greener on the other side. So, for example, sometimes what you seek, because you're tired, you know, of your way of living, for example, in the West. So what to us is a nuisance here, for example, in our own country, to the people of the West, it's wholesome. You know, it's what they're seeking, it's what they want, it's what is helping them fill that void. And to us, maybe, who have had enough of all of this, to us the Western world shines brighter because we want that void, you see. To us, that is going to fill our void. That is what is going to make us, you know, like, for example, we'll get away from all these, you know, tight-knitted family systems, and we'll go and finally breathe on our own. So, you know, the problem is that both the West and the East are in their extremes now. And we both are, you know, basically looking at the other as the better, because we're looking at a way out of this extreme, and to us now that is better, so to them this is better. So that just shows that both societies have now reached their extremes, and now they need to backtrack on towards some sort of a balance. For us, our societies have reached this extreme where we just want out. And for the people in the West who like coming to Asia and who like the vibrancy here and the life here and the liveliness and the fun and the noise and everything, it's because they have reached that extreme there in the West where it's now a void, it's empty. So we've all actually hit our extremes, and so we all now want to cross over to the other side, which is again perfectly natural. And then when we'll get sick and tired of those extremes, we'll again want to come back to this side, which happens. People, for example, who left India, Pakistan, and have enjoyed their lives away from all of this, you know, in the peace and the quiet, and now sometimes they really long for this noise, for this vibrant society, and then they come back here. But then they take enough dose of it and then they go back. Yes, you see? So they've taken the healthy amount of dose of it and they've gone back. So, yeah, that is why it's helpful for them when you take a certain amount of as much as you want out of that part of your life, and then you can go back to living your own life. So it's like getting your necessary mental health treatment, getting that break that you needed. But when you're always in that void, or when you're always in this noise, then it becomes a danger to your mental health. And that is why we always are told to travel, to go to different places, to see different cultures, and to see different, people and how they live, is to give ourselves a break, and to also maybe, mentally appreciate what we have, or to enjoy what we don't have for as long as we can, so that we are able to go back to our lives. It's necessary. But unfortunately, life is becoming more and more difficult. It's making things more and more difficult for us to be able to get those necessary breaks in life. And that is why we're getting mentally more and more exhausted. And we're more and more helpless now. So, plus ça change, plus c'est la même. The more it changes, the more it's the same. Well, I have talked for an hour straight, so I think enough is enough. I hope I seriously did not forget again the reason why I actually picked up the mic, and I hope I actually did convey the message here. And let's hope this is going to be the last of it. But I will again say, we need to change our men's mentality, okay? We really need to change. We need to re-educate men and boys on how to use their brains. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.